In this video, I'm going to go over how easy it is to get started with a Fusion fleet in Pure, as well as some of the high-level benefits that you will achieve once you have created that fleet. So I'm logged in here. In this lab, I have 2 flash arrays and actually 1 flash blade. In the newest update of Fusion, you're able to add either the scale up or scale out into one fleet. There's some benefit to that. There's still 2 distinct use cases, but you can see and operate and manage them all in one place. So as of like 6.8, and now this is in 6.10, you'll see here on the left, there's this menu item called Fleet. That is where we'll get started. That is the Fusion function. So just a code upgrade is all you need to get that going. So let's click into Fleet, and we're going to be met by this menu, and we're going to go ahead and create our first new fleet. So there is no fleet. I would not get this menu if there were one. So I'll just give it a name. And after this operation is done, that's it. Fusion has been enabled. It's really not a installer. It's a configuration. And you can see here from this that the first member is this flash array 1, right? So it's member of 1. I can still get some benefits out of just one array. But through this lab, I'm going to show you what a multiple array arrangement looks like. So we have this second array in the lab. We're going to go create a fleet. First, what we're going to do is get this fleet key from the first array. This is a one-time operation. This is how we make that relationship. It's very similar to replication. Once this is done, Fusion manages the rotation of keys. You don't have to do any other management after that. It's just a one-time purpose operation to make sure it's securely and you're connecting the right components to the right arrays to the right fleet, and it's authorized. So we'll go ahead and log into the second array. Have that key in our pasteboard. And we'll go to the same fleet menu that we saw in the other one. This time, not in a fleet, so I have this menu. I'm going to choose join a fleet. I'm going to go find that fleet name that I had before, fleet 1, paste that key in there, hit join a fleet. Once this is complete, that's it. Now we have 2 arrays in the same fleet, right? Fleet was already established. Now I've just joined another array, and I can continue to do this as many times as I need to, or I can create other fleets on arrays and repeat the operation there. And that's it. So now we're on flash blade or flash array 2. So you see that that's the local one. Flash array is in the same fleet. If I go over to flash array 1, the opposite is true, but I can see that both those arrays are in this fleet. So instantly, what that means is I can go here to something like volumes, and I can see all of the members in that fleet and all of the objects across them. I still have the ability to create volumes and operations, but I can now do them remotely, right? I can do them from one. I can do them I can do them from logged in on 1. I can do them on array 2. And it also gives me some other ways to do some provisioning from, like, say, a placement target, pick the exact array. I can choose pod or volume group, if that's how I want to manage my data, or even host or host group, which is pretty popular. And it's good to note here, what that means is I can have a fleet of many arrays, but I can have different groups of them have different hosts or host group. And this feature won't let me provision something on an array that doesn't have access to that object. So if I have host groups attached to a certain number of arrays and other host groups attached to others, I can't create objects and try to attach them across if they don't have that access. So make sure configuration mistakes don't get made. And then everything else is in here, from QoS to adding pods, the number of volumes, et cetera. All that operation is still there. So now I'm going to add the flash blade. Same operation. And just to show what I said earlier, that key can't be reused. So I'm going to go ahead and copy a new key. I can do it from either flash array. I'm going to do it from flash array 2. We'll paste that in here. And now that flash blade is in the same fleet. So again, can't reuse keys. It's a security operation, one-time use only. But once they're established, they're all in the same fleet. It'll manage that certificate rotation and the security of that. Now, FlashBlade and FlashArray are together. FlashBlade being our scale out, or FlashArray being our scale up. There are there are benefits to this. You won't be able to necessarily see objects across all the fleet members, like say on the FlashBlade from a FlashArray, especially under volumes, since there aren't volumes on a FlashBlade. Even the file systems, which we now do on FA, are only going to be isolated to that FA. If I have multiple FlashBlades, I'll see it there. But what we'll find is where it really shines is when we do things like presets, right? So that's kind of the next big benefit of Fusion. Presets can be volumes, they can be directories. And with presets, I can predefine everything that's going to go into that provision. So how many volumes, if it has QoS, how many directories, what the servers are, what the exports look like, policies, things of that nature. And now I can log into any array in that fleet provision from that preset, and it will deploy to the correct type of storage for me. So this is where the real benefit shines. I can manage as a fleet, work at a workload level, say what I want to deploy, make sure it's always configured correctly, but also that it gets to the correct tier of storage, the correct type of storage, without me having to do a lot of figuring that out and logging into the right array, right? Just really simplifying and the management and deployment of server resources. So let's dive into the first preset. I'm on FlashArray 1. I'm going to create the preset here. I'm going to create my first preset, and when I'm met with this window, really simple. I mean, this can be very customizable. We're going to pick the preset type. I will just do block storage here for this example. I'm going to pick some sort of workload type. We have a storage class. It's only going to show me storage classes that I have in my fleet. So, and this one is representing a X, a C, and an S200. So I'm going to pick that server resource. I can actually make this a variable, so it can be chosen on the workload deployment. I'm going to force it to say this workload always has to be on a FlashArray X. Give it a description if I like, for the end user to understand what it is. And then I can do things like workload tags. I can have this a set number type of tag so that I can find this or use it for observability, reporting. But I can also customize that so that you have to enter something like maybe a department code every time, right? For maybe some billing or show back or even, charge back if you have that implemented. So I'm going to give this one a preset name. It's all one word. And then I'm going to have some other resources that I can further customize. Again, I can get really customizable here. I can make these variables on the deployment. I'm going to do it simple here. But things like the quantity, right? This is block. I can say, how many volumes does it come out? Or I can ask the user to choose that on the deployment. But I can set it very rigid to like, hey, this workload always has this number of volumes, and this is what they're defined as. I do the provision size of those, right? I can have different sizes or one set size. I can put all of the snapshot configurations in here, the replica configuration. So I make sure that every time it's deployed, I get the right type of data protection. That doesn't get missed, and I don't have a problem later with data loss. And there's a kind of a customizable menu to kind of show how I can switch that toggle over, again, to force it to be rigid or to allow the user input at the deployment. So confirm that storage resource. We'll see that's what the resource is going to be put in there. And then I'm going to publish that. So a real simple workload, just kind of high level to understand how those are done. Again, they can be very customizable depending on what the needs are. And so what that changes from construct, we showed volume deployment before, is now I can deploy things at a workload level, right? And I can look at all the arrays in the fleet. Again, I can have presets that go to FlashBlade only, presets that go to FlashArray only. I choose the preset. It dictates where that storage is for me. I don't have to think about that or make a mistake. All the presets will be here like a kind of a menu or a catalog. I choose one. I'm not familiar with it. I can kind of see the definition on the right. So I know what I'm looking at, but hopefully the definition or the description also tells me that. I give the workload a name. This will be the name that I can use to manage this going forward. So what is it going to be called in the array when I go log into any array again in the fleet? hit next. And then this is where I get a choice to make that workload placement. Kind of like what we saw before. I can choose exactly where I want to deploy this. I'm going to deploy it in a flash array, so I can choose that. But I also have the ability to get recommendations. And what this does is it ties into our Pure One and our AI and our capacity planning module, and it can give me the right recommendation across the fleet where I should put this workload based on the parameters that are set. Right? It figures out where I have the best, the utilization of space, resources, etc. So I don't have to figure all that out. So I'm going to pick Flash Array 2 in this example, though. I'm going to force it in there. I'm not going to use the recommendations. Just an easy example again. I can do a projection period if I did want to do the recommendation, how far out I want it to look. One last check, okay, or I'm going to deploy it, what it's going to use, and I get met with this error message. So if you remember, talked about the preset before, I can dictate the storage class, or I can leave it open. I set this to be Flash Array X. Flash Array 2 is a Flash Array C. Maybe I don't know that here, but this policy is not going to let me put something on an array that's not defined for. Maybe this workload always has to be at the high performance. Maybe it always has to be at the lower performance. Again, just making sure you don't misconfigure a resource in your environment based upon the policy that was set earlier, right? Really moving this into a policy-based management for storage. And then got the right flash array there. If I would have taken the recommendation, it would have given me the right one. But since I chose it, it's trial and error there. Figured out what the right flash array is. And now I have this workload. And now this is how I can manage resources on my array. I can go into any array in the fleet. I can see those workloads across it. I can jump into them, see what all the objects are defined there. They can be tagged again. Just making it very easy to deploy the right settings every time, and then go find and manage my resources at a fleet level. So hopefully this is a helpful overview, and I thank you for watching.